Hey, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here, and this is the Doug.Show. In this episode, I'm going to talk to Monica Lent, and she is the founder or co-founder of Affilimate, which is a software product we're going to talk about. But she got her start in travel blogging and some other things before she started this software company. So, Monica, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good, Doug. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Well, we don't know each other too well, and I know the listeners may have never even heard of you. So can you give a little intro about who you are and what you do right now?
Yeah, for sure. So, my name is Monica. I am an American living in Berlin, and about 2 years ago now, I quit my full-time tech job to become a SaaS founder. So before that, I moved abroad. I started a travel blog and kind of got into affiliate marketing by accident. So maybe like a lot of listeners to the show, I stumbled upon Pat Flynn's blog and was like shocked and amazed to discover how much money he was making on the internet. And this was just mind-blowing to me. I don't know if you ever followed Pat. Yeah, I think we all have at some point.
That was my gateway too. Yep.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that was at a time when Pat still had like his public income reports and everything like that. And so I was like, holy moly, that's incredible. So I started putting affiliate links on a little travel blog that I created after moving out of the US over to Germany, where I am now. And a few years into it, I was like, wait a second, I'm making money. This is kind of shocking. What if I did this on purpose? And I realized, okay, like I can have a side hustle that actually makes a meaningful amount of money next to a tech job. And my co-workers were just like completely shocked, because even if you're like working at a high paying tech job, it's still incredible, the idea that you can make money doing anything else. And so, what kind of happened there is I thought to myself, wait, I want to get way more information, like the kind of nerdy data driven person that I am. Like, I want to know more about how my site's performing, and doing this all manually with like manual tracking and sub IDs and all this kind of stuff was like a no-go. And I realized that a lot of other people could benefit from the kind of things I wanted to do, but they wouldn't be able to do them because they didn't know how to code. So that's kind of how that all started. And I went from, being a full-time software developer and tech lead to building my own software product in the affiliate space.
Perfect. And some of the actionable things we're going to get into are around content, revenue, attribution, if I can get it out. I told Monica that it would be me that was going to make the mistakes, and we're going to power through. We're not even going to edit that, but we're going to help people figure out what pages on their sites are earning. And this is really effective, especially if you have sort of a bigger site with a lot of content, you're not sure which pages are earning. So we're going to get into those details, but one or two things that I want to point out. So in November, Monica, you, for the first time, hit $11,000 of profit in your, various ventures. So can you talk about that just a little bit? And we'll link up so people can get some of the background. You've been publishing these income reports, but first on like a personal level and what this means to you, this is a pretty big amount of money. So what does it mean to you? Did this blow your mind? Is it surprising, not surprising?
Yeah, I mean, my big kind of like stretch goal for the year was to hit 10K in profit. So the fact that I kind of reached this, is incredible. The other thing is like, being based in Europe, a lot of people think that tech salaries are really huge because they look at American tech salaries. But in Berlin, we don't necessarily get paid as much. So actually, this is the most money I have ever made in my entire life in a single month. So that's kind of wild. I mean, I've never really been somebody who kind of cared about climbing the corporate ladder. Before I left my tech job, I had certainly opportunities to move up in management and have more stress in my life. Not to say that I don't have stress. I definitely have stress. It's just self-imposed stress. And so I would say that was really what kind of, drove home to me. Okay, I can do this and I can not only get to a reasonable salary, but I can grow this into something bigger than myself. And yeah, that's kind of the mindset that I'm trying to adopt. My limits, let's say, on what I think is possible have been removed in a lot of ways. So yeah, that's
Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations. That is a big milestone, especially, and you have published some of your income reports. So this is a big amount of money. And like you said, it's significant compared to the, European tech jobs maybe that you would be comparing it to. So how long did you work your first corporate job there?
Yeah, so I used to work in fintech before this point. So at that job, I was there for 5 years, but it's not my full history, let's say, as a tech worker. I actually started coding when I was like 10 years old. My dad's an engineer, so I just grew up around computers and learned PHP and MySQL. I've known it for more than 50% of my life, which is outrageous and true. So yeah, I just always been coding. I never actually wanted to be a developer. Fun fact, I majored in Latin. So I thought it was going to be a Latin something. I don't know. I didn't have a plan, much to my parents' chagrin. And yeah, so in terms of tech, I had a 10-year tech career pretty much on the nose. So from being a student webmaster, on to being front-end engineering lead about in a 10-year time span. And yeah,
okay.
No more job titles for me or corporate ladder, or if there is one, I'm at the tops. Right. So that's where we ended up.
It's your org chart now. All right. And I got to say, it's odd. Were you just drawn to coding and such? You were just interested in it when you were a kid?
I think it's one of those things where if you're just surrounded by it and it's available to you, then you're more likely to try it out. So I was kind of in that age range where I had a Neopets page. And that was kind of my gateway into coding. I don't know. Did you have also, by the way, have a career in something totally unrelated before you went into business for yourself? Or have you been kind of always doing this?
I also had sort of a tech job. So I have a computer engineering degree and did management consulting and project management for about 9 or 10 years. And then I got laid off. But luckily, I had already started a couple sites because I found smart passive income. So then I just ramped it up. Yeah. So that was 2015 when I got laid off. And then I've just been working for myself.
You know what's amazing is actually I took my first tech job after being laid off from a bookstore.
Oh, really?
So the only reason I became a developer is because I was working at a bookstore. They fired me.
and then you became
then I was and then I became a developer, okay, I learned this stuff as a kid. And I got 2x what I was making at a bookstore as a developer. And they were like, would you accept $13.50 an hour? And I was like, is this a joke? What kind of a question is that? Here I am making minimum wage. Anyways, so cheers to layoffs and the new things that those can start.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact is I would have been probably too scared to quit my job. I would probably still be working there if they were paying. I mean, it was good pay and good benefits and all that stuff. But yeah, the layoff was a great push into a different direction. So, all right, you have a travel blog and I guess photography as well. Can you tell us about that and when you started it and kind of how things are going with it?
Yeah. So when did I start it? When I moved abroad, maybe it was 2013 or so, something around that time frame. Bought a camera. I had a lot of ideas, living in Europe. It's going to be Sound of Music, I will learn to play the mandolin. I had a lot of dreams. Maybe I would get some cool tattoos. I still don't have any. Anyways, so moved to Europe, started this blog. And mostly, I think a lot of people who start blogs, it was kind of like a diary. Today I walked around Berlin and here are some pictures of things that I saw. And at some point, I don't know what happened, but I started to actually publish things that were useful to other people. And, I just looked at my analytics one day and I was like, there's 30,000 people visiting my website every month. Like, is that a lot? Like, I had no idea. And so again, it was this kind of thing of like, what if I did this on purpose? So then, it's kind of where I started to learn a little bit of SEO, got into like these Pinterest Facebook groups where like you repin things for each other. Like what actually happened is I ended up on like a travel blogger resource kind of website, which was like, oh, here's all of these Facebook groups of travel bloggers collaborating together to like make their sites, link building, Pinterest repinning, threads, all this kind of stuff. And I was like, what? Like, what is this? Like everyone has been conspiring together. And here I was like kind of trying to do it solo. And it was really hard. So that's kind of like, it was really the impetus for me to be like, wow, this is crazy. Like I could make real money from this. And then ultimately when I quit my job, I was doing $5K a month during winter from the travel blog. And that provided a really nice cushion towards going full-time on the SaaS. The unfortunate thing that happened is like we had a pandemic, like if you noticed. And so the income went to like zero. And that was tough, I will say. I had to live off of savings for a while I was like bootstrapping my product and everything. It was like, it was dark days. I played like 100 hours of Animal Crossing to ignore all my responsibilities. But we are all alive and emerged on the other end. So it's okay. But that's kind of like, the up and down journey that's taken.
Right.
Been pretty crazy. Yes.
So you were making $5K a month from Not a Nomad blog. That's the name of it. We'll link up so people can check it out. Can you talk about like the revenue streams on that?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, I can talk endlessly about like travel as an affiliate niche. It's very interesting because you don't have to do any Amazon. Like that's the best part. I mean, it still made Amazon revenue. So I can talk about kind of today, the constellation, which is relatively representative. So I would say it's kind of like 30% Amazon, 30% tours, and 30% like hotels and accommodation, like in terms of, let's say 33% then, in terms of the affiliate side of things. And then it's also on Mediavine. So nowadays it earns roughly like $2K a month on Mediavine. But I do not have the ads turned as high as they could be. So I'm like, I actually don't install an ad blocker because I'm like, okay, if I'm subjecting other people to this, I need to be willing to do it. So we're doing $2K a month with Mediavine. So yeah, like in total, the site is kind of now back to pre-pandemic winter is where it's at these days.
Okay. So, and do you envision it to generally recover then, like in the next, say, 6 months or something? Fingers crossed, right? Who the fuck knows? But
yeah, I mean, I completely thought that this would be doing more than 10K on its own the following summer, because it's very typical in travel that you have like really strong seasonality, right? So if it was doing 5K a month in winter, I would have expected it to do 10K a month or more during summer. And I think this year it did reach almost 7K at one point in terms of generated revenue. But there's always, some degree of cancellations and so on. So it's a little bit fuzzy what that ends up being. But yeah, so I think hopefully at some point in the future, it will just kind of live on its own and make this money. And I use it actually to do product demos. So I can always like show people like, oh, this is what you can do with our product. And, actually look at real data from a real website. So that's why I wanted to continue to succeed.
Perfect. And I didn't even realize how big that travel blog was. So we can maybe put a pin in it and actually do a whole other interview so we could focus on that sometime. So we'll come back to that. I'll talk to you about it later. But the fact that you had this blog and that you were in the community helped you realize that there was a need for people to like figure out where they were earning money from. So can you talk about the origin of Affilimate and how you got started building it?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, it's come a long way since what it was when it started. But basically, what I wanted to know is, where is my affiliate revenue coming from, right? Because if you know where it's coming from, you can do more of that and make more money. And the funny thing is that a lot of these like programs, they just don't track that information, or if they do, they don't reveal it to you. So things like what page on the site referred the sale, even what device was used, all of that kind of stuff. And in order to figure out like, okay, what page on my site, like what blog post was it that referred somebody to buy this hotel, for example, book this stay, you'd have to go into all of those links and like edit them by hand to add like a tracking label, sub ID type thing, and be like, okay, this is from my Lake Como itinerary. And you have to go type that in there. And as a developer, it's like, okay, I can't. I will automate this somehow. The question is, am I going to help other people do the same? And I was like, okay, I definitely want to quit my job at some point. Like I always knew I didn't want to like become a VP of something and then have all of that stress and gray hair and shortened life expectancy and all that stuff. So, okay, what we did is, and I started to build this with my partner, Gernot. So he's also a software engineer. And of course, taking the engineer mindset, we're like, okay, can build a SaaS product for this. And what it kind of started as was just doing basic click tracking, like see what pages on your site were referring clicks on affiliate links. So we had to develop like an algorithm that would find all of the affiliate links on your website, because nobody in their right mind is going to like take thousands of links and then go like manually put them into some tool. And then it kind of went from there, from click tracking to containing like, heat maps, aggregated revenue reporting. And now what we're doing a lot of is this automated revenue attribution, where like we go to all the pages, adapt the affiliate links, and allow you to see like in a scalable way, which page is generating money on your site and down to the link level. And this stuff is like not really possible without some kind of a tool. And yeah, any site of any reasonable size, you can't do this by hand. So the question is, are you going to pay someone a lot of money to do it by hand and then get only a little piece of the data? Or do you want more information and to do it automated?
Okay.
So that's kind of the evolution that it took, from like click tracking to revenue and then revenue attribution. And we're going to go deep down that rabbit hole. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting. And typically, I like to, especially when there's a software interview like this one, I don't want to just make it a big commercial for that. Sorry, I didn't tell you that ahead of time.
Sorry,
but
I'm just trying to explain how it works. But
it is perfect. No, you're totally fine. But I was going to say, is there a way to do this without using the tool? Assuming, let's say, it's not a huge site, but maybe there's like a couple hundred posts that would need to be tracked. So you can do some manual editing by hand, which seems really cumbersome and error prone, perhaps. Is there any other way to do this kind of thing or get some piece of the data?
I mean, the thing is that every affiliate network is different. So some affiliate networks will track the referring page for a sale. The problem is they don't do it in a consistent way. So sometimes they have the data, sometimes they don't. For example, Share a Sale, Skim Links, I think Awin as well. A lot of them provide that data. So if you send a sale from your website, it might include that information somewhere in the user interface. To be honest, I consume this data by API, so I don't even know where to find it. But it is tracked somewhere, available in some of these tools. And then if you wanted to, take that information, apart from doing the sub IDs yourself, then you could, of course, somehow export these into some kind of an Excel file and try to do something like pivot tables, maybe, or VLOOKUPs. I'm not really a spreadsheet expert, but somehow you could potentially do that. Like some of them do track this information, but it's not reliable enough. You would need to do the sub IDs. And you could start with top traffic pages. That's what I would recommend.
Okay, perfect. And Monica, that is exactly the answer I was hoping for and kind of expecting. Like, this question is one that I've gotten for years. And I mean, I thought about it, and then I looked and I realized, oh, this will be probably impossible to track. I wasn't thinking about it in an algorithmic way. I was just like, VLOOKUPs. I am a spreadsheet person. So I was like, this looks like I can get some data, but maybe not useful. So I just wanted to point out, like, this is kind of a more advanced thing. It'd be great to know, but I think you have to be at a certain level before it makes sense. So do you have a recommendation for like how much traffic or how much earnings a site should have before they should, think about using a tool like this to get that granular information?
I mean, when it comes to page level attribution, the thing is, the sooner you start, the better it is. Because once you have a website with, 100 pages, hundreds of pages on it, it's very intimidating to go in and do that. The other problem, which is pretty important, is that a lot of people put shortened links on their website. So like fave.co for skim links, or Tiddly links for AWin. And this kind of like doesn't give you the ability to even go easily retroactively changing those links to have that proper tracking. So in an ideal world, you start from the very beginning if you're going to do it by hand. Like, you definitely want to be creating every single link on your site with that extra kind of campaign parameter if possible. What mostly ends up happening is that people they're like me. They don't realize that this can be a serious revenue stream. Build something that's kind of giant, and then at the end they're like, I wish I knew more about this. So yeah, that's kind of the trajectory. But it's all about, when are you making enough money and have enough traffic that maybe some small changes could make a difference for you. And you'd be surprised. Like, I don't know if you're tracking this on your sites, Doug, but sometimes it surprises you, like where your most valuable content is from an affiliate perspective. Have you noticed that? Or
I am still lazy, and I still don't know. But I have been somewhat surprised in the past when I've tried to find some data, but I still haven't checked out Affilimate yet. Sorry. But,
no, it's really fine. I mean, this is the thing, is there are still tons of people who are totally successful making tons of money from affiliate marketing and have very like rudimentary analytics. They do it, it's just maybe not the most efficient way, but you can certainly do it. Like, you also don't need Google Analytics on your website.
Right.
You can just write. I mean, people don't do that. Like,
yeah, some people.
So,
gotcha. Okay, so let's think about, like, if someone wants to check out Affilimate, and what's kind of the onboarding process? Like, I always get nervous if I'm going to try to use a new tool, and it's going to be a lot of work, and maybe I have to unroll it in the future. Maybe it'll break things. So can you talk about using it and onboarding?
Yeah, totally. So basically what we do is we crawl a website for all the existing affiliate links so that you don't have to like type them by hand. And then you import them by pushing a button. And then you need to install a little bit of JavaScript on the site. And this basically allows us to track clicks on those links and add extra tracking parameters that you then use to kind of glue together the revenue, which you get through integrating with affiliate networks, with the on-page data. So depends. Every site is a little bit different in terms of how long it takes to onboard, but it's like, I don't know, a typical site, maybe you have 5 integrations, and well, it doesn't really matter how many links you have. I mean, you could probably do it in 10 or 15 minutes, maybe. I mean, it's not too bad. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it's pretty easy. I mean, sure. As long as you don't have like these shortened links, like if you have shortened links, then they have bad tracking, and you want to replace those. But other than that, it's kind of straightforward.
Okay. And I'll just recap to make sure I understand. And you mentioned integrations. So that's integrations to different affiliate marketplaces, or? Yeah,
totally. Okay. Totally. So like Share a Sale, Impact, Skimlink, stuff like that.
Okay. And overall, you guys crawl it, and then you'll insert the proper whatever tracking, and it only takes a few minutes, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then is it hard to roll it back, or does it actually change the code? What happens, or is it kind of on the fly with the JavaScript?
Yeah, so it happens on the fly. So there's no like database access or anything like that. So you can actually turn all of those on and off. The only thing is that if you like all of the sales that we kind of attribute for you, they will be attributed forever. So those tracking IDs will be in there for all past sales. But one thing we do, which we try to like be nice about, is like those tracking IDs will all contain some bit of human readable information, which tells you which page converted. And then it's followed by a unique analytics ID. So if you ever leave, like your data isn't totally useless. Like you could still, if you're as good at spreadsheets as you are, you can definitely like bring that in, strip out the analytics ID, which you can't read, and still be able to like run reasonable reports. So that's
perfect.
That's the only thing. Yeah.
It doesn't leave like all this damage of unusable stuff if you pulled it out.
We don't have a plugin or anything like that. I actually am not very knowledgeable about WordPress. Like, it's just, it's one of those things people get super surprised. They're like, you built this whole thing and you don't really know WordPress super well. It's just like a different kind of software development. So sure. We don't have like a WordPress plugin, and I have no idea how to build a WordPress plugin, to be honest.
I think you're doing okay. Yeah. Perfect. Okay. Any other notes about like using the tool or things that might be interesting when you're starting to use it?
Well, there's a lot of interesting things, but I don't want to be a commercial. So we'll just see if they come up during the course of like talking about some stuff that maybe people who aren't using the tool could still apply to their site, see some gains, even if it's like not so easy to track. Like there's still so many things that I have learned from like optimizing my own site where I could, say, okay, these are at least a couple of experiments you want to be running regardless of what you do. And yeah, I think there's
perfect.
A lot of best practices people are just missing. And if they were to do that, they'd already see gains, and then they can get that extra, 30, 40, 50% with the analytics on top of it.
Monica, you're a great guest. You're segueing for me. So what are some of those best practices that people can do? And obviously you have a lot of experience making money on Not a Nomad blog. So yeah, let's hit some of those top tips.
Yeah, totally. So I would say there's so many things because I also see so many websites, right? And there's a large sample set here. So the first thing that I would say is there has to be a balance between introducing your affiliate links early and looking really spammy, where it's like, really big, bold tables and stuff. These are really great. But sometimes people put them so early on the page that people haven't yet gotten an understanding of like who you are and why they should listen to you. But again, it's always something you can test, right? There are plenty of big profitable websites that probably do this. But on the flip side, a lot of people wait a really long time to introduce their first affiliate link. I would say this is like a very basic beginner mistake. So they're like, wait, have like a whole long intro, and they're missing that kind of like summary piece, which says like, this is my number one top recommendation. Like, I recommend this personally because I have used it. Like if you look at the click data and you look at how much those, personal recommendations using I language affect the click-through rate and conversion, it's wild. And so often people are just like, this one's nice and this one's also nice, so they're just really missing that copywriting aspect that lends the confidence that people need to take your recommendation. So kind of in a nutshell, like introducing the links early, not so early that it kind of makes your site look bad or spammy, but like, establishing why should people listen to you? Like, if I talk about places to stay in Berlin, then I tell people at the beginning of the article, I actually live here. And, I've been to all of these places. I visited multiple times before moving here. Like, these are the places I would recommend, my favorite areas, best, and all of those things build confidence in the reader. And I think a lot of people just do the links. Another top tip, if I can add another one, is like not forgetting to link not just the product name. So often people just link the product name, but there is like no intrigue like behind what's behind this link, So like just something as simple as like see more images, check out reviews, or like, this particular product. All of these can really dramatically boost the click-through rate. And if you're promoting something like Amazon, where they're just so good at converting, then you're optimizing a lot for that click-through rate. And yeah, so often people just have like a one and done approach with the product name as the link. And like, if you track this, like you will see that people choose between all of the different ones. And you need to give them enough interest kind of to draw them into the link. And like, these are like the basic things that I would say, like 101, like you should never have basically like one affiliate link to the main product you're promoting in it, like that first paragraph or whatever. Like you need it several places and formats because you just don't know yet what's going to resonate with people.
Yep. And I really like those are perfect. And some of my favorite ones too. One thing you mentioned was just giving different options for people to click over. So, buttons can be nice, but some people are afraid of buttons and they would rather see like a text link. And one that you mentioned was seeing reviews. So you could say, see real owner reviews on Amazon or wherever you're selling from. And that's what people want to see anyway. That's why they're reading your site. They want to hear about it. So if you could send them over there and, they click the link and get the cookie, then that's perfect. So.
Yeah, totally. I mean, again, once you test it, like even with a basic heat map, like free Hotjar, you can also still like learn a lot from that. Even if you're not sure about the conversions, like it will still tell you a lot. Do people care at all about the product you're talking about or not? Right. So, yeah.
And one thing we talked about offline was potentially like reordering some of the content on your site, specifically the mention of the products. Can you go into that and why it can be important?
Yeah, totally. So the kind of framework that at least I personally have developed when it comes to like writing affiliate content, deciding which affiliate content is worth writing, and then hopefully maximizing the revenue from that content, especially as someone who I don't run an affiliate site as my main thing. It's something on the side that I share with people during demos. So not spending a lot of time on this. So the main thing is when you do these kind of product roundups or roundup style posts, for example, in the travel industry, this might be, best places to stay or things to do. Those are also product roundups, even though they don't necessarily start with the word best, right? So any of these like list style posts, what happens is, you write the post. You might have your top 5 things you think are going to convert the best or that you like the most or however your selection criteria is. But you have no understanding of like what is going to resonate with the visitor. And what happens is sometimes you have these anomalies where you see, okay, there's a lot of interest in this, but not that many people are seeing it because it's further down on the page. It's just not exposed enough to people because people don't scroll through your entire like 4,000 to 5,000 word affiliate optimized article, skyscraper content, or whatever it is, right? So the question is, can you surface those kind of like gems that are kind of sprinkled throughout the post once you find out what people are reacting to? And of course, like you can kind of do this with heat maps. It might be a little bit difficult to see what is relatively doing better. But basically what you want to do is reorder your article so that the stuff that is having the best click-through rate and also converting the best and actually increases the revenue of the page is what comes first. And one of the like kind of key things that people mess up a little bit is not just thinking about, okay, what's the conversion rate of the content, but what's the revenue per visitor that this content is generating. It's kind of like mixing up what is your end goal. So that's why having that, page level attribution makes a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, like moving these things up through your articles and then finding, a winning product, maybe out of the 12, 15, 20 items that you're talking about, that can validate for you which products are worth writing dedicated reviews on. And so many people do this the other way around, where they start with reviews, they take a lot of time, product doesn't convert, and then you just put in so much time to write this article, or you paid someone to write it, or whatever you did. So that's kind of like the cycle that I like to recommend to people is like start with the list post, find your winners, experiment with it until you reach some degree of revenue efficiency, and then break those out into individual reviews that you can deep link to. And, this is kind of like a repeatable process that works in a lot of niches.
Perfect. That's a great tip. Before we move on, do you have any other, I know there's almost an endless number of tips you can give, but any other big ones before we kind of move on to another line of questioning?
That's a good question. I mean, to be honest, I don't think so. It's not that complicated. Like once you have the information in front of you, or anytime someone tells you this is what you should be doing, you're like, literally, why didn't I think about that? Because it's not really rocket science. It's just, you have to know, right? And I would say the big thing is just, once you find a winner in terms of an on-page strategy, a product, a call to action that seems to be doing really well, like don't forget to test this on other pages on your site, because more often than not, like everybody has like dozens of best product reviews and it might take some work, but some of these really small tweaks, you can double, triple, or more the revenue per visitor. So it's worth going back to that stuff and testing it and trying not to be afraid that you're going to lose your ranking. Like little tweaks. Right. That's always like the danger, right? But, go big or go home, I guess.
Yeah. Don't be afraid. Okay. So moving on, you're a co-founder for Affilimate, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah.
And where'd you find your partner?
We're in a relationship.
Oh, okay. That's the the perfect
ultimate
hack. Okay. Got
yes.
it. Okay. So I could take it in a different direction now. How is it working with him?
Yeah. I mean, this is so funny.
He might watch it. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think he's not as interested in like, I do most of like the communication aspects because I'm coming from the background of being an affiliate myself. He doesn't have that background. He has a super deep technical background. So yeah, I mean, what shall I say? It's efficient. We work in separate offices. I guess anybody who is working at home right now and your significant other is also working from home, having some space to yourself also always helps. But yeah, I would say it's just very efficient. Like, you can be really open about things. You can talk about things at every meal if you want to. I mean, we're both kind of like pretty intense about work. So that I would say that fits, like our work style fits. I would say if we were not that way, then maybe it would be too much. But yeah, I would say for us it's like the ultimate efficiency hack. Like you're hanging out, have ideas all the time. You can talk about the same stuff. You're on the same page. So that's pretty cool.
Okay. And how do you divide the work?
So it depends. So nowadays I'm doing a lot of the stuff that's not really super technical because it involves communication with people, like troubleshooting, bugs, like a lot of the big features have already been developed. So a lot of it has to do with like user experience. And so I do a lot of that. But the part that he knows best is definitely like the deep analytics stuff when it comes to storage. And, like we use BigQuery to store things like it's a very complex system and we certainly didn't know when we were getting into it, like we were going to be doing something this crazy, but now we are. And so that part, he just knows the best. So when it comes to certain parts of the system, it's like, okay, like this is going to be more efficient if you work on it. But over time, I'm kind of learning everything so that I can fix stuff everywhere in the entire system. But yeah, I would say it's mostly like based on code familiarity.
Okay, gotcha. And then it sounds like you're doing more of the just marketing in general and like some of the content marketing and all the things related to that, right?
Yes, I'm learning to be a marketer. Like that is like that is definitely the biggest learning I have had to have. I thought that growing a SaaS product would kind of be similar to growing an affiliate website, and it's not at all like that. So it is really hard. So I would just say, like, yeah, I'm definitely doing a lot of the marketing, sales, all of that communication kind of stuff, like customer acquisition, all of that kind of thing. And then when it comes to like features, like things that, let's say, larger customers need, where it's like, okay, like now we need to build a BigQuery export or who knows what, then that'll be something that we'll tackle together.
Okay. And there's a lot of the audience that have tech backgrounds like us. Some are developers, some are just highly technical, but can figure out a few things. And you mentioned how different it has been from growing an affiliate site. So can you highlight a couple of those? What were some big surprises maybe that you thought were going to be easier that are actually much harder?
Totally. I mean, from a traffic perspective, ranking for the kind of content that's going to attract affiliate marketers is so much more competitive compared to travel bloggers. Like travel bloggers, there are definitely like plenty of tech savvy ones, but it's not necessarily the same level of competition as like, these are the SEO experts of our industry who are so intense about link building. And even if the content is maybe not that great, they have like propped it up with like such an outrageous number of backlinks and paid probably a lot of money as well. And it's just like, it's really painful to write about some of these topics to try to get relevant visitors on your website. So just how hard it is to get traffic, it's so much harder from an organic standpoint. Like, as an example, I also started to learn WordPress. I started a little website about Fujifilm photography, just like so I could do some demos and record videos and learn WordPress. This has like 10 articles on it and it gets like 4,000 monthly visitors. It's crazy. It's so easy to rank for. It only makes like $200. But it's so easy because it's like it's a niche that has like a desert of content. Like it's just missing information. And that is the exact opposite of affiliate marketing, where you have just like way too much. Everyone is like, you're fighting over a search volume of like 30 per month. Like it's crazy. So that would be a big one. It's just like underestimating how much harder it is to rank in a niche like affiliate marketing compared to travel or photography so it's just harder than I expected in that respect. The other thing is just that selling your own product is a different experience than referring people to buy somebody else's. So you're totally wonderfully shielded away from like the customer support, logistics and fulfillment, like all of these kind of things that make product more complex. That's a lot of work. And you just you just get like a slice of the profit. It's so like affiliate marketing is amazing. Right. So when you look at that in contrast to running a software business where you're like, okay, I have to worry about so many things, whether that's like, tech support, training, communicating with people, sales, demos, like it's just a multifaceted beast. But it's everything's easier once you already know it. And I just don't know, like, I'm not a SaaS expert yet. Once I'm a SaaS expert, I'm sure I will say, oh, yeah, first 10K a month, easy peasy. Here's my roadmap and my masterclass you can buy for $10,000 or whatever. But until that point, it's way harder.
And actually, you're a great interviewee. So you've hit sort of a big income milestone. Affilimate is growing. Things are going well. Do you have any sense of imposter syndrome at this point?
Oh, I had that for so long. I would say I still have it to some degree, but definitely. I mean, the thing is that the affiliate marketing industry, and you tell me what you think about this, Doug, like it's so secretive and competitive that you never really know where you stand. There are a lot of people who might say, I'm doing 10K a month. Look at my Amazon screenshot. You don't really know what this means. So you don't really know, is my 100,000 visitors a month a lot or a little? So there's always this question of where do you stand? And of course, sometimes I'm doing product demos. Like just today, I did a demo. They have millions of monthly visitors. I don't know how much yet, but they're in the millions. They're probably, who knows? They're a big site. And I'm like, hey, I'm giving you a demo on my site. This month it did 50K visitors because we're in winter now, made about 4K. Can you just extrapolate to how this would look like on your site, which has millions of visitors, thousands of pages, and fuels a proper team of people? Just use your imagination. So there's definitely that aspect. But I also think the kind of people that are most fun to work with, again, you tell me if this is something that you've experienced, these are the people who also kind of want to root for you because they're you're not a giant anonymous company. I know I can come to you and you're going to solve my problem. You care about me individually. And so those are the kind of people you just want to work with and makes more sense. So instead of trying to hide that you're not a huge team, you can lean on that for the right kind of customer. So that's kind of what I would say. I don't know. Do you still have imposter syndrome at this point, Doug?
Yeah, a little bit, but it's in different context. And I think it's kind of like when you become an expert, what's it called? The Dunning-Kruger effect. You know what I'm talking about? So for the people that don't know, you may have to help fill in the gaps for my definition here. But it's when you first learn about something, you are gathering information and you feel like you know a huge amount and you're overconfident with how much you know. And then as people become experts, they realize how much they don't know and they underestimate how their knowledge how good their knowledge is in general. Is that a reasonable definition?
I always thought the Dunning-Kruger effect was that stupid people don't know they're stupid.
That's a much better way to put it. Yes, you nailed it. So the whole point being, I now
it's a little
realize,
more crass.
Yeah, but to the point, right? That is perfect. So yeah, for me, I still get imposter syndrome, but it's in different scenarios. And most recently, I've been going to some conferences in the personal finance and financial independence space. And there's a lot of really well-known people, and I'm just me. But, they don't know who I am, but everyone's very cool and very welcoming. So that does help it. But yeah, sometimes I walk into a room and I'm like, wow, these are really amazing people, but they're all just people. So I feel yes, I still get imposter syndrome, but it's a little bit different now. And it's strange, how you can get used to earning a large amount of money or a small amount of money, and we just sort of adapt to whatever it is, and then you just expect it, sort of. So, I have that in mind as well, which that's sort of a deeper tangent. But the imposter syndrome, I don't think it ever goes away. If you're continually challenging yourself and accomplishing things.
Yeah, I think I can kind of relate to that type as well, because when you change niches or kind of change the focus, maybe you have a popular YouTube channel, people know you for affiliate marketing, niche websites, and so forth, but you take that leap to like pivot to something slightly different. And it's kind of like starting from scratch because those people don't know you. And it may or may not even be transferable, a lot of like the clout and reputation that you've already built up. This is also the same for me. People know me for tech stuff and nobody knows me in, the affiliate marketing space. And it's kind of the same thing. You're just like, okay, well, I have to build something on my own merits, like just from the ground up. And I don't know, it's humbling, I guess, to remember what it's like to start without any kind of like assets or personal capital to build on.
Perfect. Yeah. And I realize we're at the end of time that I scheduled. Are you good for a few more minutes?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay. So as we're winding it down, you are a tech female founder. Is there anything interesting that you have observed as you're out there marketing and trying to get the word out?
Well, I mean, I can certainly say that even though the tech industry is, it's notoriously male, let's say. I mean,
Yeah.
I took computer science in university. It wasn't my major, but I had CS classes, and there were times where I was the only woman in there. Also, I had times where the students were like afraid to sit next to me or communicate with me just because it's like very awkward stage, I guess. I don't know. But like, you definitely notice a lot like, okay, I'm the only woman here. But from what I've observed so far, I feel like kind of the SEO and affiliate marketing industry, from what I can see, at least from the side of like, let's say, creators, not as much like partner marketing, like the more corporate side of things, which is like, what's happening on LinkedIn, let's say. But that's also like super male. And I would say even more so in the tech than a lot of the tech industry, which is just interesting because I think you have a lot of people who are like, this is how I make money online. And like, it has this image of like, here's my fancy car. And like, I also go to the gym all day. And like that kind of messaging is not necessarily like super inclusive to people of all kinds of backgrounds or whatever. So I kind of strive a little bit that maybe as I'm kind of making my way in here, I'll try to do something a little bit different. I don't know how that's going to work. I don't know how it's going to be received. But we will see.
Yeah.
It's a little intimidating. People on the internet are scary. Like, that's a fact. But, you have to put yourself out there or you'll never achieve anything meaningful. So that's the conundrum we are all facing, isn't it?
And it sounds like you saw my recent new ad, me in front of the Lambo going to the gym. So
did you?
No. But
I did once have somebody say that I had someone on Hacker News once compare me to Ty Lopez, me personally. And Ty Lopez, oh my God, I can't believe I'm saying this. He replied on Twitter and said something like, wow, that must have been terrible for you. And I was like, I'm not going to respond to Ty Lopez on Twitter because I'm so afraid. But anyways, point is, no matter what, you might be compared to, and maybe Ty Lopez is a fine guy. I'm just saying, I don't know.
I don't know either. We'll have to talk offline because I'm curious how that comparison was made.
I published an article, which was a very unimpressive article. And the thing is in tech, I will just mention this, people just can't fathom the idea of making money not from a salary job. And so you have to be a scammer if you're making money not from a salary job. And the only thing that is valuable is code written for some giant publicly traded company. And if you make money in other ways, like consulting or your own products, like you're definitely scamming people. And so that mindset is very pervasive.
That makes sense. And I'm pretty sure I thought that for most of my career I thought Pat Flynn was a scammer until I listened to more episodes and I was like, oh, maybe this is real. So you don't know until you investigate a little bit. So
yeah, got to go down the rabbit hole.
Okay. So what is next for Affilimate, say in the next 12 months or so? Do you have any specific goals? Anything on your mind?
Well, I mean, growth is the number one thing. I'm like, what I'm super lucky to have is that I don't have to take any kind of a salary from Affilimate because the blog is profitable. It makes like a comfortable income for me. So I'm able to actually pretty much reinvest by hiring people, doing more content, all that kind of stuff. So that's pretty awesome, and just means I'm just going to be reinvesting in the company and in growth. And yeah, I think the thing will really be scalability, bringing on bigger and bigger sites. So we have a lot of people who have small sites. They're on our smallest plan, and that's fine. And I like these people. They're very relatable to me. At the same time, when it comes to like making something big, and I have big ambitions, then I also want to bring on, people who are really going to be able to use the product at a big scale. So, and that's also just cool to like see the inner workings of like a really large site. It's fascinating to watch that and kind of work with people and optimizing stuff. So yeah, I think that's going to be it. Like growth, scaling, and really just figuring out what we can build that will practically help people make more money. Like this is what it all comes down to, right? You have to prove an ROI, should be really tangible and clear. And that's the main thing for us.
Amazing. Well, Monica, this has been fantastic. Where can people find you?
Well, I'm on Twitter. That's probably the place where I actually don't tweet that much. But when I do, it's because I think I have something to say. So I'm on Twitter at twitter.com/Monica Lent. And I share kind of the behind the scenes a little bit. Most of my audience there is developers. So sometimes I might ask technical questions, crowdsourcing support from the developers of Twitter, because that's where you got to go these days. I also sometimes publish on my blog at monicalent.com. That's more kind of like the personal backstory, let's say, of building all of this stuff. That's where the income reports are. I published my last one yesterday, so they are kind of going away in terms of future ones, but I have almost a year's worth that if people kind of want to see, going from, let's say, 2 to 10 is like kind of the range in there that you get to watch. So, yeah.
Perfect. And hopefully we could have you back on in the future. You have other projects that are very cool that we didn't even talk about. So I'll link up everything so people can find you. And thanks a lot, Monica. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Doug. It was awesome talking to you.